When Tasha arrived at the sprawling Whitaker estate on that humid summer morning, she was ready for the usual grind. Hours of scrubbing, dusting, and polishing the cold marble floors and polished wood that made the mansion feel more like a museum than a home. The estate was famous in town, a colossal fortress of wealth, surrounded by iron gates and towering hedges that seemed to guard secrets better than any security system. Tasha had been warned by the agency. The owner, Mr. Whitaker, was a reclusive billionaire whose vast fortune was matched only by his icy reputation. But nothing had prepared her for the sound that met her when she opened the heavy oak door to the nursery, a raw, piercing cry that shattered the silence and echoed through the high ceilings. At first, Tasha froze, startled by the intensity of the baby's wails, so unlike the hushed, perfect stillness expected of such a grand house. She stepped inside cautiously and saw a tiny figure alone in a crib, his face flushed red, fists clenched, tears streaming freely. The room was impeccably decorated, soft pastel walls, to delicate mobile spinning lazily above the crib. Plush toys lined neatly on a shelf, but none of it seemed to comfort the child. Tasha's heart squeezed with a fierce protectiveness. Here was a baby, utterly alone in his distress. And the silence outside the nursery door only deepened the loneliness of that moment. She glanced toward the heavy doors leading to the rest of the mansion, and remembered the warnings. The master of the house was rarely seen and deeply private, a man whose wealth had created walls around his heart. Yet something inside her whispered that this baby needed her, needed a gentle hand and a kind voice in a world that offered him little warmth. Moving carefully so as not to upset the fragile balance of this somber place, she lifted the infant into her arms, feeling the small weight and the rapid beating of his tiny heart against her chest. She rocked him gently, whispering soft lullabies her grandmother had taught her, careful to keep her voice low and soothing. Gradually, the fierce cries began to soften into hiccups, then quieted altogether as the baby's body relaxed against her. For the first time since she arrived, the mansion's chill seemed to ease just a little, as if the walls themselves recognized the comfort she offered. But as she looked around the nursery, her eyes caught the faint outline of expensive baby monitors and a large portrait of the baby's father, Mr. Whitaker, stern-looking man whose eyes seemed to pierce through the distance like frozen steel. Tasha wondered what kind of father could leave his son crying alone in this cold house, and whether he would ever welcome her presence or the peace she had just brought to his child. She placed the baby back in the crib with reluctant fingers and took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever response might come from the master of the mansion, knowing this moment was only the beginning of a story that would change all their lives forever. When word spread throughout the mansion and beyond about the mysterious young woman who had calmed the billionaire's son, it stirred a storm of whispers and speculation among the staff and the local community alike. Some regarded Tasha with suspicion. How could a mere cleaner reach the heart of a man whose life was built on guarded secrets and cold walls? Others were quietly inspired, seeing in her courage and warmth a rare light in a place usually shrouded by silence and power. Mr. Whitaker himself, a man whose soul had been hardened by decades of relentless business battles and personal loss, reacted with a complex mixture of pride and protectiveness, his initial instinct to push Tasha away battling with an undeniable curiosity about the change he saw in his son, once a baby tormented by cries and restlessness, now sleeping peacefully, soothed by a stranger's hands and voice. Whitaker's fierce privacy meant he watched from a distance, often observing Tasha without her knowledge, his eyes searching for any sign that she might be a threat or a fleeting distraction. But what he found was something genuine, a kindness and strength that challenged his long-held beliefs about trust and vulnerability. Meanwhile, Tasha, who had only come to earn a paycheck and keep her family afloat, began to peel back the layers of Whitaker's imposing facade, uncovering a man haunted by grief and fear, trapped in a world of wealth, yet deeply lonely and yearning for connection. In those quiet moments between whispered lullabies and stolen glances, a fragile bridge of trust slowly took shape. Fragile, yet unbreakable. Even as rumors swirled around the estate about a cleaner who dared to touch the untouchable to bring warmth where money and power had failed, setting in motion a transformation that would ripple far beyond the walls of that mansion and change all their lives forever. As days melted into weeks, Tasha's presence within the vast, echoing halls of the Whitaker mansion transformed from that of a mere cleaner into something far more profound, a quiet healer of broken spaces and wounded hearts alike. The mansion, once a cold fortress of wealth and loneliness, began to soften under the gentle care she brought, not just through the spotless gleam of polished floors or dust-free shelves, but through the laughter and calm she nurtured in the millionaire son, whose cries had once shattered the silence with desperate urgency. Tasha taught him to smile, to find comfort in simple joys, and in doing so, she filled the house with a warmth it had never known before, soft giggles replacing tears, tiny hands reaching for her in trust. Meanwhile, Mr. Whitaker, the formidable billionaire whose every day had been governed by cold logic and steely business deals, found himself drawn into moments he had long avoided, quiet evenings where the mansion's grand study was alive not with charts and contracts, but with bedtime stories, gentle lullabies hummed softly by Tasha, and even the hesitant, fragile smiles that crept across his own face. Tasha's courage and kindness challenged the walls he had built around himself, compelling him to confront the fears and grief he had buried deep within the grief for a family fractured by absence and regret, the fear of vulnerability that power had never been able to shield him from. With each passing day, the household staff watched in awe as the millionaire's icy facade began to thaw, revealing a man who, despite his immense fortune, had been starved for love and connection. What blossomed in that mansion was no mere change of routine. It was a new chapter not only for the little boy learning to trust and laugh, but for the man who had everything money could buy except the one thing he truly needed: a heart open enough to love and be loved in return. As the sun began its slow descent behind the sprawling horizon, casting a warm golden glow through the tall windows of the Whitaker mansion, an air of quiet anticipation settled over the grand study where Mr. Whitaker had summoned Tasha for a conversation that would change the course of their lives forever. The room, usually dominated by polished mahogany desks, stacks of ledgers, and trophies of business conquests, felt different that evening, lighter, somehow more humanous. The walls that had long echoed with the sounds of solitude and silence now witnessed the unfolding of vulnerability and hope. Whitaker, the stoic billionaire whose heart had been guarded by years of pain and pride, finally let down his defenses, speaking not of boardroom strategies or financial empires, but of the regrets that had haunted him, the lost moments with his son, the years spent building walls that isolated them both, and the unexpected gift that Tasha had brought into their lives simply by being herself, a presence of warmth, compassion, and unwavering strength. In that profound moment, he extended an offer that transcended employment, a partnership rooted in trust and shared purpose, not just to care for his son, but to build a future where compassion was valued as much as any fortune, where love and understanding would reign alongside success and power. Tasha, who had come to the mansion with a heart full of determination and a desire to survive, recognized this opportunity as more than a job. It was a calling, a chance to reshape not only the mansion, but the very fabric of their lives. Together, they set about transforming the cold, impersonal estate into a home alive with laughter, tenderness, and possibility, a sanctuary where the echoes of past pain were replaced by the joyous sounds of healing and connection. Their journey became a powerful testament to the truth that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, The gentlest hands and the most unexpected friendships can mend the deepest wounds and ignite the most profound changes. In the end, the mansion no longer stood as a symbol of wealth and isolation, but as a beacon of hope and transformation, reminding all who entered that love true, unguarded love could change everything.